I've had loads of complaints that A Victim Bites Back has stopped its weekly shows, but as I mentioned during the last show, 100, I was going to do some specials. And I've had lots of comments saying, what did I feel about the American presidential election? Since it's coming up in a week or so, I felt I should do a special Victim Bites Back about the presidential election. The first thing I should say is you really ought to see the movie The Apprentice. Nothing to do with the TV show in Great Britain or even the TV show in America, which was of course hosted in the Alan Sugar part by Donald Trump. But The Apprentice film is about the early days of Donald Trump, and is actually fascinating, mainly because it isn't about Donald Trump, it's about Roy Cohn. Well, Roy Cohn was the lawyer who sort of formed Donald Trump. In fact, the point of the movie is Donald Trump is basically the apprentice who took over the position of Roy Cohn. Well, Roy Cohn was one of those lawyers in the 60s when I first went to America and New York, who kind of dominated the scene. And there were quite a few lawyers of a similar type, and they ruled everything from movies to politics to, in my case, music. For that reason, I never actually came into contact with Roy Cohn, but I knew an awful lot of people who were associates of his or close to him, who were lawyers, and Roy Cohn played a part in their lives. Various assorted lawyers, such as Marty Michat was a great music lawyer, several others, and also my very dear friend Paul Marshall. Paul knew all about Donald Trump. In fact, he used to call him the Donald, and he knew all about Roy Cohn. The film is actually fascinating. The actors who play both Donald Trump and Roy Cohn are absolutely terrific. It's well worth seeing. The whole Roy Cohn thing is fascinating. I don't think Donald Trump approves of the movie at all, but I do think it's worth seeing, and I actually think you won't go off Donald Trump watching the movie. You may well get some admiration for him, as indeed I have, although I can't stand the man and am opposed to about 90% of his policies. As we go through Halloween, the US president election is very close to Halloween. I basically think you see two caricatures or two monsters fighting each other for a position which actually has no power or control whatsoever. The President of the United States is merely a figurehead, and it's people behind the scenes who manipulate policy, create things, which then have to be passed through Congress and the Senate before they become law. So actually, the president has very little power. They are basically a figurehead for government, and they do very little. However, whilst I actually would support the Democratic side because socially I'm much more a Democratic type person, as I tend to veer towards the left in many other ways, in Great British politics, for example. But on the other hand, socially, I tend to be fairly open-minded, but financially and economically, I'm fairly right-wing. I'm very much a capitalist. I very much believe that the economic health of the nations and the world is in the hands of a very few entrepreneurs and skilled people who can actually make the money and then make sure it reaches the people who deserve to have it. But the other thing that I think is really important is the fact that the media controls the world. It is absolutely entirely down to the media. And let's be honest, what the media does is actually favours Donald Trump, although the media hates Donald Trump because he's managed to beat it so many times. The reality is he knows how to manipulate it and work it, and Kamala Harris has no idea how to do so, and neither do the Democrats. The Democrats tried to paint Trump as a sex offender. That failed. It works for most people when they try that, but it failed against Trump. Trump beat them on that. They then tried to get him on silly little trivial things. Did he take a couple of files home with him when he was president? Other such rubbish. That doesn't really seem to be working either. I really admire Trump and his lawyers enormously for beating the media attacks, often prompted by his political enemies, but still the media would love to bring Trump down. He's beaten them once and became president. He didn't manage to beat them a second time, but I suspect he will beat them, or could beat them, this third time. So how's it going to end up? We all know it's going to be a tight battle. It will depend on the, I think, 7 or 8 swing states. Who will win the swing states? I thought that was actually going to go to the Democrats because Kamala Harris had raised a load of money, and my thinking is if they had brains, they'd spend that money on the last 2 or 3 days in those 7 swing states, on television, radio, in the press, locally in those swing states, all over billboards and everything else, and just absolutely dominate the media at that point, including, of course, social media. But then Donald Trump came up with a real winner, Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is very bright, wants to become a part of the Trump administration, which I suspect could be a big mistake on his part, but either way he wants it, and he can actually have a major impact on those 7 swing states. So who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully Kamala Harris will become the next president of the United States, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Donald Trump manages to get it again. And actually, in my opinion, although, as I said, I disagree with so many of his policies, and I don't like the man at all, what I've seen of him, but I don't think he was that bad a president when he was president. I don't think he'll be that bad a president this time around. So I don't think it will be a disaster if he gets elected, although I personally say vote Harris. I also have an amusing attitude towards Trump, which I put into a track recorded by a friend of mine, Concertina, or as Concertina. I wonder what you think of it. This is my basic tribute, with tongue firmly in cheek. I don't think the Americans get irony, but Concertina singing Donny Reggae.
My mom says she met him on a Caribbean holiday when he was just a teenager many years ago. When asked these days Jamaica, he answers, never met her. He's a hero, but a faker. He never could forget her. He talks a lot of rubbish, but he's right quite a lot. And many on the other side would like some of what he's got. Back then he was a chancer, but a groovy Yankee dancer. My dad would ask her questions and she always had an answer.
What's he like, Tina?
Well, he always had a suntan.